in positive or negative ways, right? And then there's these big E's that happen very randomly and very infrequently. And so the piece I did last time was a small E. It was something that was very traumatic. It was very important, but it took years to fully realize the impact of how it made. And so there's a second part to that story that I wanted to write for this crowd particularly, and due to things like work and apathy and procrastination, I did not have it memorized. But this is the big E experience that happened right before I attended this college. Yeah, long introduction. The first time I did acid was literal insanity. Fresh out of high school, no job, no college, 17 years old, reckless and aimless. My neighbor, who was a few years older and my first dealer, had a vial of liquid LSD and a pile of sugar cubes. 40 of us sat in my front yard that summer evening, ranging from the most experienced, mind-fucked, alternate dimension traveling veterans to a few of us virgins of other worlds. I had done mushrooms before, but this, I was told, this was another creature completely. 3 drops of LSD, carefully dripped into a sugar cube for $5. The vial was gone in half an hour, when everything shifted, melted, and spun. We went across the street into the park, 40 of us lost in strange mental planes of existence, one sober and moccasin-footed dealer smiling at the gift he gave us and the money he had made. 2 of our friends, they were laughing at these shadows that looked like people spying on us, and giggled as they started to kind of inch towards the silhouettes when a flashlight clicked on. A beam of unadulterated reality slapped us in the face as the cop said, "What's going on here?" 39 of us turned and ran in the other direction into the darkness and woods across the creek. We hoped the cops wouldn't follow. Bosco sat quietly on the picnic table. I can only imagine the Cheshire cat-sized grin on his face when the cops asked him why we all ran. He said he wasn't sure, but running wasn't for him. The cops left him alone. They told him only, make sure he keeps us out of the park for the rest of the night. I wonder if they noticed how big his eyes were, the size of golf balls. I wonder if they had any idea of what he was seeing at that moment. The rest of us scattered in the woods. Our dealer, the only sober one, lost his moccasins crossing the creek. Our buddy Kriako fell and broke his glasses. Llama ran full speed into the corner of a picnic table. The gash and bruise lasted for weeks. It looked like a black eye swollen shut trying to force itself open in the middle of his leg. Jameson called Llama's phone a short time later, upset, confused, and hurt on the ground in the woods. We found him a short infinity later, in a ditch, separated shoulder from the tree that wouldn't let him pass. The night became a lot smaller after that. It was small cells of tripping kids stumbling across each other in the late night hours of a small town. I found myself 2 towns over with 3 friends, one of the experienced otherworlders and 2 other newbies of the mind splinter. The elder, the shaman of us, that messed with our realities even worse. Less than 6 months from that day, he is diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. Ironically, in many cultures, shaman are people who we would deem insane, people who hear voices, the paranoid schizophrenics in our culture. But they are revered and mystical in other cultures. And I will always revere Joe for what he showed me that night. He conjured up our friend Linus, lost to suicide in the park where we started that trip not even a year prior. Are you going to end up like him? What are you even doing with yourself? His voice raised into a swell of emotion, insanity, and desperation. What are you doing with your life? Look at him. Do you want that to be you? What the fuck is wrong with you? My other friends, offended, wandered off feeling their buzz being destroyed by the weight of entities outside our world that silently sat with us every day. I listened. I saw my downward spiral and how it followed Linus. Meaningless, lost, frustrated, and finally finished. I vowed right there, amidst those dancing trees, the swirling pools of dark water, and the pulsating streets lights, that I would not end up like that. And we started our 6-mile walk home. We were all lost in our own universes, only communicating through an occasional giggle or whisper of awe. When I finally got home, the sun had already come up. I couldn't get into my front door because there was a swarm of bees trying to build a hive on my small front porch, so I went around to the back of the house and climbed in through the kitchen window. I still have no idea if those bees were actually there. I ended up laying in bed for hours, thinking and thinking and thinking, unable to get Joe's voice out of my head before sleep finally went out over the LSD. For 16 hours, I had left that town for the first time on a sugar cube for $5. The next day, I woke up and I kept that promise. I enrolled in college with the intention of never going back to that town again. Thank you.